if you have something to say, if you have a podcast that you want to do, if you have a film that you want to make, like it doesn't matter if 10 people watch it or a million people watch it. You just have to create it, because you not doing that interview, you not even giving it a try, is like doing a disservice to the world.
Ryan, thank you for coming on the podcast. Honored and humbled for you to be here. Really grateful to have gotten to know you virtually and at some events, and now I'm excited to get to know you deeper in person.
Dude, thank you for having me. I hear so much about you.
I love to hear that. Hopefully all good things.
No, it is.
Let's start with Roslyn, New York.
Yeah.
I grew up in Port Washington, down the street from you.
Yeah.
The town next over.
Wild.
And now we've come to Austin and gone full circle.
I mean, I don't know, like, what do you think about growing up in Long Island?
It definitely shaped me.
Yeah.
But I'm curious how growing up in Roslyn specifically shaped you.
Honestly, I don't know if I had like the best time in Roslyn. It's such a how do I say it? It's like so white picket fence, like formulaic. People go to Roslyn to go to college and then they move out, or they go into the private, like, gated areas of the suburbs of New York. So I don't know. It shaped me in that, like, I think that growing up as an artist, I really started to like understand how like I did not belong here. I actually thought like it was pretty I thought it was like pretty traumatizing being there as an artist and growing up not really succeeding in the STEM areas and stuff like that. I don't know if your school was like that though.
To give people context for what it was actually like when you think of the American dream, where we grew up is how I think of life. And the interesting thing about this is that both me and you are not people you can really put into a system and have that system spit out something. But if you are somebody who's like going to be a lawyer or a doctor, or you agree with the system that we were raised in, you're gonna thrive in that environment.
Yeah.
And so, like, what is that like as an artist? You said it's traumatizing.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just like you don't get. I think I was so lucky that I was born in an age of like the internet, and I discovered YouTube, because I think if it wasn't for that and for like watching Nigahiga growing up and all that stuff, I maybe wouldn't have discovered that. And I kind of would have thought that I was just like, man, I don't want to say that, but like almost like not worth as much as those people that get into honor society or like that get valedictorian and stuff like that. And it took a long time for me to kind of work out of that, and meeting like all these guys in the live audience over there, and like meeting all the creator camp guys, to really feel like I have value to give in this world. Dude, for the longest time, since like 11th grade, I think up until 11th grade, 12th grade, I thought I was just going to go to like a regular city college, get a business degree, get a 5-figure job and work my way up to a 6-figure job, maybe have a family, and that was it. I thought that was what my life was supposed to be, until, I really started leaning into YouTube and filmmaking.
And then at what point do you realize like, oh, I'm different?
Not in like the best way. It's just like, oh, I'm not as good as these guys. I felt like I really early on, like maybe elementary school, middle school, I'm like, I can't get the grades that these guys are getting. Like, my parents are sending me to like summer camp or like summer schools. I have to go to SAT prep because I just can't get the grades that some of these guys are getting. In that sense, like really early on, I felt like I was different. But in terms of like, oh, like filmmaking is my thing, it wasn't until senior year
of high school.
Yeah.
And how do you come upon that realization?
I had taken a TV studio class. Here's the thing, like in like, I don't know if it is for your high school too, but like STEM is so valued, and when you decide to take an art class, it's like either for the outcasts for the quote unquote weird people, or like for the people that just like don't give a fuck about school. So you just take an easy class like art. And I just remembered like 12th grade being super fed up taking these like AP classes. Do I need to explain what AP classes are?
No, AP classes for the international audience are the classes in which they're more advanced.
Yeah. I just got sick of like taking these classes. I'm like, fuck it. I'm gonna try to take a TV studio class. And it was a big step for me because I tried to conform for such a long time. And this was my first time kind of stepping out of my comfort zone. And it was like my TV studio teacher that kind of changed everything for me. And the funniest story is like, I was like, I need to be the filmmaker of this school. I need like an identity. And so since I went in like 12th grade, in my first semester of 12th grade, I had to start from square one, and I really didn't want to start from square one, which was like TV Studio 101. And in order to get into TV Studio like 2 and 3, you had to take TV Studio 1. And I remember going like, man, I make amazing YouTube videos already. Like, my mom's like, if you want to skip a level, you should go to the TV Studio teacher and tell the TV Studio teacher that you're good enough to level up, to get into TV Studio 2. I was like, okay, I'll do it. I went in, and this guy is like not the normal teacher. He's built like a motorcycle. He's jacked. He's got tattoos everywhere. He's got a ponytail that like goes down to his butt, and it's like a whip because he's got it in like these hair ties. And I just remember going up to him, and he's like, oh, you're the guy that wants to skip. He's like, you're the fucking guy that wants to skip. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm good enough. And he's like, you don't know shit. And he starts lashing out at me in front of a whole class. He's like, this guy thinks he's a better filmmaker than everyone. Do you know how to use this camera? I was like, I don't know how to use this camera. And he's like, he's like, you don't fucking understand. You have to start here. And I remember like almost pissing my pants. And that was like my first encounter in TV studio. I don't know why I kept going, but I took the 101 class, and the first assignment I made a film, and that's when he started opening up. He's like, damn, okay, you really are pretty good.
Wait. Before we get to that,
yeah,
like, how did that make you feel? And did you use that as a chip on your shoulder, or did you use that as, like, how does that make you feel?
Bro, I was confused. Honestly, but also, I don't know. I guess, like, I had so much confidence in my ability to make YouTube videos, which was, like, it's, like, a weird thing, because I never felt like that with math or science or whatever. So I was like, I'm gonna go back. But, like, I just remember, like, I was about to piss my pants. I was like, man, when I go to this class next semester, like, he is going to remember me, and I'm going to be his least favorite student right off the bat. And I don't know, when I went in for the first time, it's like he almost forgot about me. Or like he didn't acknowledge the fact that I had gone in and like asked to skip a class. And yeah, that's how my filmmaking kind of career started.
That is insane. It's insane because there's so many different ways you could have potentially looked at that scenario and been like, all right, like, this guy hates me. I should never film again. I should never do anything with filmmaking. I shouldn't, like, I don't want to talk to this guy. There's so many different places your mind could take that.
Yeah. I don't know. I felt like usually I would have just been like, fuck that guy. But I don't know why I went back, and he almost became like a father figure to me.
Really?
By the end of senior year. And man, his name's Mr. Brogan. So if he's ever, like, I need to send this to him, because he's seen me go from making like stupid vines, like 6-second vines, and thinking I was the shit, to like getting 100,000 subscribers on YouTube and stuff like that. And yeah, he's the guy that I think, he was one of the first guys in Long Island. I won't even say, not really even my dad or my mom, because they knew I had this interest, but, you know, being traditional Asian parents, they wanted me to do something a little bit more Long Island, like business and shit like that, you know? STEM, exactly. So he was the first guy to be like, dude, you could be a film director. Like, you could make films. And that was everything. Like, looking back on it, it's funny because this is the second time I'm telling this story in Austin. And it's really making me think about him more, and I'm feeling like I need to contact him.
There are people along the journey that we don't often think about, and that they've played such a critical role. Where did so your story is so fascinating because when I looked into it, you have this feeling sometimes of insufficiency and this feeling like I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And I want to break down like quotes from you on that topic, but that story that you just told is the complete opposite.
Yeah, it's the complete opposite. Him empowering me to do that. But a lot of those insecurities came from Long Island. It also came from just traditional like Asian parents. But for them, it's like they care about me. Like it's just that they were really scared and of me going into the arts and stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of that shit was from Long Island, dude. Like high school.
It makes sense. No, I get it because when you're doing something that's odd or weird, it is not supported in Long Island, or at least where I was raised.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is so fascinating because who do we put on a pedestal in the quote-unquote real world? The weird people. The people who are willing to follow their passions or pursuits or obsessions to a level that is unseen. Those are the people who were like, yeah, that's Kobe Bryant, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But Kobe Bryant practicing every day at all hours of the day is not something that's cool in high school. And maybe that's not the best example because basketball is traditionally seen as something cool. But if you take that to filmmaking or art or music, it's like, it's interesting how what we consider weird at one point is something that's cool at another.
I have a question for you. Like, within your school now, do you think like people in your high school are like, Danny Miranda is doing some crazy shit right now?
You know what's so fascinating is that throughout my entire life, I've been able to navigate through the jocks and the nerds and all facets.
Yeah.
Everyone expected me to win. I had a blog when I was 15 years old, a Knicks blog, and I was meeting NBA players and interviewing them, and
that's fucking sick.
And I left doing that because I wanted to be a normal kid. I wanted to experience what college was like and parties and fraternity life and all this stuff. But a part of me like was dying inside from all of that.
Yeah.
So when people talk about, I don't understand, like, why don't people get me? Like, why don't they see what I'm doing? Like, for me, everyone always expected me to win. And I feel very, very blessed
that's awesome. Yeah. Oh, that's fucking sick.
Yeah, but I want to go to your insecurities because you've been so open and vulnerable and honest with them.
Yeah.
And one quote you have here, and this is, we'll talk about Colin and Samir and
for sure
their role in your life.
Yeah.
But you had an amazing video of the 48 hours it took to meet them.
Oh, yeah.
And you said at one point in the video, even a part of me didn't want to meet Colin and Samir because of how fearful I was that I was going to mess up. And I think a lot of that is not a reflection of the situation, but it's a reflection of, for me, it projected a lot of my insecurities and fears of not being good enough, not being deserving enough for the situation.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that goes back to everything that we just talked about, like, and also, like, yeah, I don't know, like, yeah, it just goes back to everything that we talked about of, like, I really felt like the invisible Asian kid in high school. So like finally getting 100,000 subscribers and like getting all this weird attention. And again, like also within my YouTube career, I had gone viral, and then I went from making 1 million views, 600,000 views. Okay. 100,000 views. What the fuck's going on? 50,000 views. And I was like, okay, this is like the story of my life. Like, this is what has happened all throughout high school, where I will just be invisible again. I got my little stint of like 1 million subscribers. And around this time was when I went from 50,000 views to 7,000 views a video. And I was just stuck at that number for such a long time. And I remember just feeling like yeah, that's just who I am. I'm just this kind of loser that doesn't really deserve that stuff, or like that doesn't really deserve to be a YouTuber and stuff like that. So I remember exactly around that time was feeling really insecure. I had spent $6,000, which was all the money I had at the time from YouTube, on this one project that just did not work at all. And from that project, Colin and Samir watched it. It was it got 30,000 views, I remember. And they watched it. And honestly, that video changed my life, even though it only got 30,000 views. But yeah.
This is the way you're talking is with such an emphasis on the view count.
Yeah.
Why is that the case?
It's just like growing up, that's how you're valued. You know, you're valued with grades, like you're valued, it's like grades, or who got into what club, like, you know, who's in the varsity team. So a lot of my attention was, and I still struggle through that today. And I've been trying to dial back on that. And a phrase that I've been using a lot to dial back on that is like, you need to create fearlessly. Like as I'm starting to like really find my mission on YouTube and stuff like that, and like trying to build a resource for creators and people that don't feel like they're capable of doing that stuff, like myself. Create fearlessly has been a thing that like I've been like at least using in my own mind.
Create fearlessly.
Yeah, it's like I had this conversation with a friend yesterday, and he was like, I had this film that I wanted to make, and this film, like, something happened, like, and COVID happened, and it's been 2 years since I talked about it. I can't believe, like, I'm talking about this because it's such a vulnerable thing, and I don't know if I should make it again because I don't know how it's gonna be received. I'm afraid that I'm gonna spend 100 hours on this video, and no one's gonna care about it. And I guess the reasoning behind Create Fearlessly is like, if you have something to say, if you have a podcast that you want to do, if you have a film that you want to make, like it doesn't matter if 10 people watch it or 1,000,000 people watch it. You just have to create it, because you not doing that interview, you not even giving it a try, is like doing a disservice to the world.
1,000%. And I think what is so important about what you're talking about is that the view count is not related to your worth as a human being.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, some of these interviews get 100 views or 500. It doesn't matter to me. Like, that's not what it's about.
The fact that it's just out there, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we get so attached to it because that's what our society is rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
But what are you rewarding? Who are you as a human being?
Recently, like, how have I been? So it's been this thing, and I'm sure you know this phrase by now, but like building your world, and like that is what it rewards me now, is like this video. I don't care if this got 10 views. I don't care if this got 1,000,000 views. It's now a part of my archive of who I am as a human, and that is the rewarding thing, is that now, and that's with everything in life, right? This watch, the clothes that I'm wearing, the shoes that I'm wearing, like all of that, like building my world is, I think, what fulfills me. And like, honestly, the only thing I can think about, because if I try to think about the views, if I try to control anything outside of that, you just become like a ball of stress. Like, I don't know.
1,000%. And it highlights such an important point, which is you can get a lot of people to look at something, but are you getting a lot of people to resonate with something?
Yeah.
And building your world is getting people to resonate with you as a human being. Where did the idea for building your world stem from, and what do you do consciously to build your world?
It came from all my friends and seeing them decorate their rooms, and kind of also falling in love at the time, weirdly enough, with Tyler, the Creator, and how much seeing someone like that. And I think I really think that him and like Pharrell, they're on like the cutting edge of art, not only being like, I'm a musician, I'm a podcaster, I'm a filmmaker, but of literally everything that you do. And it might sound like super pretentious, but it's like, now art can be a way of life, and what I mean by that is, oh man, this is hard to explain, but when you see Tyler the Creator, right? Yes, you think of a musician, but also he's an entrepreneur. He owns 2 clothing. He's a fashion designer. He directs commercials. Like I think that, I don't know if it was the generation before us or whatever, but we became so obsessed with like labels that a filmmaker is all I ever was, or like you were labeled as like a banker or whatever. And now it's like, nah, like I don't want to be Ryan the YouTuber anymore. Like I want to, Max and I always talk about, you're going to do the interview with Max later, but like we always talk about like one day we'll design furniture and we're going to design clothing and we'll run this events business and we're going to be a filmmaker, and I think that is like, I guess we just use building your world as an analogy for all of that, decorating your room. What clothes do you wear? What do you want to do? Who's Danny or who's Ryan, because you're not just a podcaster.
That's right.
Yeah.
Speaking about the ways in which you decorate your room.
Yeah.
Dude, I pulled out maybe a half a second snippet from one of your videos where you've got the following on your wall, and we'll flash it on the screen here so people can see. You've got the following statements: just create, think small to accomplish big things, be inspired, good art is a machine for empathy, fall in love with building, keep it simple. I think you got love yourself. Like I don't know if you wrote these yourself.
Yeah, I wrote them myself. Yeah.
And you have it on like note cards. Like you flashed that for a second, dude, and I was quick to snap that up.
Oh, that's sick, dude. That was like my room 2 years ago, which is nuts. I actually have those index cards in a little like box now because I wanted to decorate my room in a different way. But yeah, during college and stuff like that, that's how I would decorate my room. Like just little inspirational quotes, little post-it notes and stuff like that, just to remind myself of like of how to move forward and carry myself.
This seems like it's been a key piece of your journey, is like putting up posters or putting up things in your room that manifest where you want to be.
Yeah.
How did you get the idea to do that, and what is your process for creating a reality from your head to world?
I don't know now. By the way, I watched one of your podcasts, I think it was with Anne-Marie, I saw your Instagram story where you said, I want 1 million downloads, 1 million downloads. I started doing that, by the way.
Wow.
For myself. Like, I am this. And I can't explain it, but at this point in my life, I'm like, I am going to direct a feature film one day, and I just kind of trust it at this point. I don't know if it's I can't explain it. I feel like you might be able to explain it a little better, because I hear stories about, you getting some of these podcast hosts and then you talking about wanting these podcast hosts, and he just appears on the street all of a sudden.
Dude, I'll tell you a story that happened in the last week.
I know about the story, but you got to tell it.
What do you mean you know about the story?
Because Mr. Danny Desnick told me about it, but...
Oh my God, Danny Desatnik. Shout out to him.
Is Desatnik or Desnick?
I think it's Desatnik, but
okay.
He'll have to talk and confirm it. But dude, so I'm talking to Danny, and we're outside a coffee shop, and we're talking to this guy, Charlie Rocket, and his manager. We're talking to his manager, and we're all standing around talking. The dude, Charlie Rocket, just appears out of nowhere. Yeah. And then we start talking to him, and he'll be coming on the podcast sometime in 2023, hopefully, God willing. But it was just like, Charlie, like, Danny was shocked. Charlie's manager was shocked. And I was just like, this is life. This is life. This is what happens.
Yeah. I've been carrying myself with that mindset a lot more now. In terms of manifestation and stuff like that, I'll write something in my journal, and I don't know if it's naive or anything. I just know it'll happen. And And I used to not be like that. I mean, even reading the stuff before, I was downing myself a lot with like Colin Samir and all of that stuff. But only very recently, I'm like, damn, if I'm putting out good stuff in the world, and if I'm just trying to change the world in a positive way, like some sort of, I don't even really believe in God, but some sort of higher power is on my side, and wants me to win, and that I guess that's how I've been carrying myself in terms of like, oh, like putting stuff on my wall, or writing stuff in my journal, or putting those index cards up on my wall. Like, yeah, I don't know.
It's funny you say you don't believe in God, because in January 2021, you had this quote. That's why it took me such a long time to get to where I'm at. Because for a long time, I wanted to do YouTube for personal gain. I think if you want to do something great, though, if you want to do something amazing with your life, you have to have some sort of purpose that is greater than just yourself, and something that hits on a spiritual level. That was January 2021.
I don't even remember that. What video was that from? Dang, bro, you're pulling up. Dang. But yeah, I've been realizing this stuff with Creator Camp too. It's a tall order to bring. Like,
what is Creator
Should
Camp?
I explain Creator Camp?
Please.
It's an event that I run with 4 of my best friends, and the goal was to build a more holistic experience in the creator economy and the creator industry, because right now the 2 biggest events are VidSummit and VidCon. And great, 1 million subscribers. You'll learn how to get 1 million subscribers in 2 months using shorts. That's all amazing. How to make more money. But once you have that, like, now what? And we realized that there was a lot of that missing in the creator industry. So bringing nonprofits to talk, like bringing creators to just like do weird games and to get to know each other. And it's very wholesome vibes. Like, I think we need that in the creator industry. It seems like we're very much in a bubble, and expanding outside of that. Like, you're a creator, but would you consider, like, it's like,
I'm not a filmmaker.
A Mr. Beast wouldn't consider you to be a part of the creator industry, right?
Maybe. Well, I don't know if that's true.
Like, it's just like when you think of the creator industry, it's a very specific type of person.
Yes.
It's a very specific thing.
But the word creator is so broad. Exactly. It's like saying American or someone from Roslyn, even someone from a specific town. There's so many variations of that. And when we use words to describe things, we're doing the best we can with the language we have, but it's not an accurate term.
Yeah. I guess I'm saying, like, VidCon and VidSummit doesn't serve like the broader artistic creator industry.
I see.
And what we're trying to do is build like a more holistic experience, and see how we can actually use our followings for social impact, and really pushing the idea of like meaningful content on the internet and stuff like that. But that's Creator Camp. But going back to what we were talking about with
spirituality, God, and how the world has kind of unfolded.
So it's like a tall order. Like, we were going from 35 creators in our last event to now we want to bring 65 to 70. So we're doubling the amount of people that are coming. And we had very ambitious goals with this event. You know, we're renting out the largest log cabin in America. We're like doing all of these things, all with like the intention of everything I said: holistic experience, pushing the idea of more meaningful content on the internet, and bringing artists that maybe don't necessarily have the support of brands and traditional creator economy companies, like giving them a backbone and a support system. And we realized, like, we made a fuck ton of mistakes. We'd want to bring out like the most, like, you know, people with 10 million subscribers and stuff like that, but it's like some sort of higher power is like, no, like, you should dial it back, like, and we're rooting for you, but like, like, I don't know, it's like the way that we described it was like pruning season, like when you have to like cut the roses so that they'll grow back more beautiful. Something out there was like telling us that you're being a bit too ambitious right now. If you take on too much, you're going to fail. So I'm gonna just cut this off for you. And I I don't feel like I'm not explaining this well, but like
You are.
something was kind of like um pushing us forward, but also like cutting back. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
What was it? Like when you say that, what happened that allowed you to have that realization?
The realization that
The realization that something was telling you that you needed.
it was just like a bunch of coincidences. It was just like there's no way, like, okay, like this person cut back, this person cut back, and it made our lives so much easier. And then like other opportunities started coming our way that we knew that we could actually handle for this event, you know?
Yeah.
And in that sense, I guess it felt like something was on our side, you know?
How did going to Montana change your life?
It was like the first time we had, like, I felt like I really had a sense of community that where people really understood me. It was also a very, very humbling experience being around a bunch of 17 and 18-year-olds that ran six-figure businesses.
How old were you at the time?
I was 20, 21. I think it was 21. And it was like, holy crap. Like, I am not the center of the world. You know, like coming out of like the insecurity stuff and of like high school and discovering filmmaking, like filmmaking is my fucking thing. I went to college and I was like, I'm gonna be the best here. No one can fuck with me. And I guess I carried myself with like a lot of anger in that sense and that's what motivated me. And yeah, sure, like people knew me as the filmmaking guy or the guy that made really great films, but that, honestly, that's not the point of art and stuff like that. And once I started transitioning and dropped out of college because I'm like, this is not for me, like the people here like are not motivated enough or whatever. But also that was like a wrong way of thinking because people go to college for different reasons. And meeting these people in Montana that are 17, 18 years old, and I'm like nowhere financially close to them or like as successful as they are if you want to talk about like like numbers and like all that stuff. Yeah, like it was a very humbling experience in that sense too. And it forced me to reapproach how I moved forward with my career. Not with anger and forcing things and all that stuff, but more with like how do I move forward with love and how do I move forward with less ego, you know?
It's so interesting how community and bringing people together who were similar to you made the realization was that, oh, I need to operate with more love.
Yeah. Because I don't think there could have been any other way. I think if I continued to operate with anger and my insecurities would have just shined through and people would not have wanted to work with me. So it was a lot of realizations in that sense.
It's funny because when you're fearful often about like what other people will think about you in certain scenarios, it's because your ego is so high.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing to think about. And it's like often we think the center of our world is like, all right, I'm meeting with Colin and Samir, and if they don't like me, like this is going to end me. But it's like you're in one way operating with insecurity, but another with ego.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's cool. And what I admire about you so much is how transparent you are with all of those feelings, with all of those emotions, and sharing them with the world. That's a hard thing to do.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I feel like we need more of that. Like, you know what's funny is like the one of our earliest discussions when we had gone to Montana is like our generation is like statistically just less religious, and we're getting bombarded with all of these things because of the internet. Like we know more than I think any other generation about what's going on in the world because we just have these computers in our pockets. And I don't know if you've watched Everything Everywhere All at Once, but that like nihilistic mindset I think is what a lot of our generation has sort of taken on. And it's like, where are you going to go since you're not going to, you're not religious or anything, where are you going to go to find the deeper questions in life, your purpose and your why? And I think that there needs to be more of this type of content and what my friends are making, not to act as like a replacement for religion and stuff like that, but as like a little bit of a push, or a little bit of guidance in a world where it feels like everything's kind of fucked.
A push towards what exactly?
Understanding who you are, working through your own insecurities and like why you're here, like what your purpose is in this world and stuff like that, and not that like our videos is like a answer to all of that, but it can help guide you towards the right direction. I think that's what art does in general.
Absolutely. And it's crazy because we got here, but we don't know why we're here.
Yeah.
We don't know like how we got to this point. We don't know why we were born, if there is a reason at all. We just know that we're operating in this body and mind.
Yeah.
And that's all we know. And for a long time, people had religion as a way to understand that. All right, I'm here for this reason, and this is what's going to happen after.
Yeah.
But now we don't have that because we've said religion is no good, and we have all the
The branding is off for religion right now. Yeah.
And that's what I think that's what Kanye was trying to do. He was trying to make religion cool in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, going back to what you said about like art is a machine of empathy, like, I think that, yeah, it's interesting. I think now that we've gotten to a point where you and I don't have to leave this fucking room anymore. Like I could DoorDash, we could DoorDash. You could play video games with your friends here. You could hang out. But because everything is so accessible now, and I can call a friend from across the world in 2 seconds using FaceTime, now I think the most important thing is being able to understand that person from across the world, right? Because we grew up with different cultures, with different values and different beliefs, and let's just say on the internet, like I get into an argument with some guy from China or something. Imagine if 1 million people get into that argument. That's where war comes from, and what if we had like art as a way for me to understand what that person is going through, and I'm like, oh, it's not because you hate me, it's not because you're trying to attack me, it's because you have your own beliefs and you have your own way of thinking, and I understood that because I watched this piece of art, and I actually empathize with you now. And I think that's why it's so important to make these films and to push art, on the internet especially.
How do we get better at creating art?
I think it's like we need to democratize it, and that's by like using the platforms that our generation loves the most, which is YouTube, TikTok. Using those platforms to encourage millions of artists to create. Because right now the narrative is like, oh, you can't, like, not everyone can be an artist and create things, and like it's not practical to be an artist. But I think with YouTube and TikTok, we can really encourage everyone to kind of tell their stories, even if it's not your job. I think I was talking to a friend earlier, like there will be a rise of like casual artists. You'll have your 9 to 5, but also you'll tell your perspective from your world. And I think as the human race, that's how we can get better at art, is just democratizing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
And it is already being democratized, but I think the push from people like you, from people like me, of like,
right,
creation is, and sharing your perspective is perhaps the most important thing that one can do, because it can help us understand each other at a deeper level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, look at what podcasting has done. It's essentially like democratized like the late night show and stuff like that, or like conversations, And I think right now we have the technology. Right now it's just all about breaking down the barriers of like the walls in our minds of like, no, I have to tell my story. I have to go through Hollywood and I have to pitch it to producers and stuff like that to tell my story. No, you don't. Like you can shoot it on your iPhone and like and push it out there. You know, I'd rather do that than have it sit in a box for the rest of my life, you know?
Yes, and that's why your friend, it's so important for them to put it out, whatever
Exactly.
they're thinking
It's
about
a
for 2
create
years.
fearlessly type thing. Yeah.
Create fearlessly. Yeah, that's going to be the title of this episode.
I love that.
So Colin and Samir have created fearlessly for a decade, and you spoke about them being an important part of your journey, and we spoke about them previously. Like, what role have they played, and how have they helped you create fearlessly?
I think this is like the importance of like mentorship and stuff like that. It's funny because at the time that I met them, my channel was like in an all-time low, and I think that they understood it so much because they were struggling for 10 years, and I don't know if you were subscribed to them. I don't know if you were subscribed to them before they are Colin and Samir right now, but like I remember they were stuck at like 150,000 subscribers for several years. And I remember watching them and going like, if there's anyone, if I'm starting this YouTube journey, if there's anyone that I want to be, please do not let it be Colin and Samir. Please. Because they were such talented creators and such talented storytellers that were getting zero recognition. And I felt like everything was like working against them. They uploaded a fire piece of content, 20,000 views, and that's not gonna be sustainable for two grown men, you know, almost in their 30s. And seeing them break out of that shell and kind of prove me wrong was really inspiring. And meeting them, I think they knew exactly what I was going through when I was getting like 7,000 views and everything. And they invited me to a bunch of events, and they let me write on the published press. And I think that also, like, having been with them, like, molded my channel in a lot of ways, because now my channel is like trying to build a resource for creators similar to Colin and Samir, but like in a more artistic sense. So the way that I explain my channel is like building a library of resources for the next generation of artists and creators, and helping them out more in the emotional side. And I think a lot of it honestly had to do with their advice that they gave me. And in some ways it's like a opposite of Colin and Samir now, because I'm making videos about the artistic side of the creator economy, and they're much more on the business side. You know what the funniest thing is that when I was at an event with them, like Colin literally was like, you are like the opposite, or you're like the anti-Colin and Samir, or you're like the opposite of us. And it's funny because I didn't believe it at that time, but as my channel is molded, it has in some ways become that, which is kind of funny.
It's funny because you admire, or you looked up to them so much at one point of your journey, but like have almost become the opposite, and how the opposite of something doesn't necessarily mean you hate them.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. It's just filling something that they aren't filling in the creator industry, you know? So that's been really interesting.
Going back to the manifestation piece.
Yeah.
How do you manifest? How do you do it?
I don't know, dude. I don't fucking, I truthfully, it's just like, now I know that I want something, and then like obviously it's like common sense. Like it's not like I fucking want a private jet and if it appears, you know, in my room or something like that. But it's like, it's just trust now. I don't do anything to like manifest, I guess. Like I guess the building the world is my manifestation. I get, you know, putting posters up in my room, wearing a nice watch, feeling good with my hair and stuff like that. That's how I like kind of continue to build my sense of self and like manifest all the things that I want to do. Yeah, I don't really do anything anymore, because I used to have those index cards, and I remember in college what I would do in the mornings. I would wake up at 5 a.m. and I'd stare at the mirror. I'm like, you're the shit. You're a good looking guy. You're like, you know, you're like, you're the best filmmaker. I don't do that stuff anymore. I don't know. How do you do that? How do you?
Yeah. So I think that's so cool that you like did that at one point and like served you, and then you don't use it anymore.
It got exhausting.
Yeah. But I wonder if like that helped create the version of you that you're currently living in some way. Like even if you're not using it in this moment.
I guess now my manifestation, because when I think of manifestation, I just think of that, like stuff that I used to do, but now it's very much like the world building stuff, you know? The shoes that I wear and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, ever since you talked to Anne Marie and had that conversation, I've been much more intentional about what I'm doing and how it's appearing to other people, which I think actually can be a negative thing in a sense, because you can take it too far in like, I'm only going to do things that appear a certain way, but I've been much more tapped into what am I doing? How am I presenting myself? And how are other people perceiving it? So for that, I'm really grateful for you. But to answer your question about manifestation, every day I write out the thing that I want to accomplish 30 times and sit in it. And ideally I do it right before or right after a meditation of 20 minutes. So I'm just sitting there 20 minutes, letting the time go, sitting there. And then after that's over, I'll write out 30 times the thing that I want to happen.
Yeah.
And it's been remarkable how I will do actions that are in alignment with that person.
Yeah. You kind of like fucked with my mind with like a podcast that I listened to where you were like, me picking up a water bottle and setting it down is manifestation.
Yes.
So why can't me like getting 1 million downloads on a podcast be manifestation? I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. Because that makes so much sense.
We are constantly doing things that are bringing from our brain into reality. I'm touching this microphone. Well, guess what? In order for me to do that, I needed to first actually think about it for one split second.
Yeah.
In order to do that. And when you realize that your voice and what you say is the most important manifestation of all, it really hits home why I'm looking to musicians like Russ or Mike Posner.
Yeah.
And really understanding them at a deep level, because they use their voice to transform the world, their world.
Yeah.
And you are doing that in your own way through film, and one part of film is using your voice to tell a story.
Yeah. We were saying like our words are so fucking powerful right now.
Yes.
Like, I'm really trying to find a way to answer your question of like, how do I manifest? Because I don't think the poster stuff like really is that for me. Like at this point in our Montana trip, we talked about like we need to build physical spaces. We need to bring together like all these amazing creators, and it manifested in Creator Camp, right? And pushing forward like advertising. Like advertising can be actually artistic and wire integrations like this. And this is a conversation we had in at the Montana house, and like now it's manifested in this business that we have between, you know, the four of us. And like it's just like saying it out loud at this point. I'm like, okay, that's gonna happen now. Like we want to build physical spaces. Okay, that's gonna happen now. I'm gonna get I'm gonna get 1 million subscribers. Like I think it'll happen. Yeah, it'll happen, you know.
Say it with your chest, man.
Yeah.
Like seriously, like, you know what's so cool to me is seeing your confidence rise. I'm watching these videos from you 2018, 2019. There's a different you that's presenting
for sure
right now, and there's more confidence in what you're saying is actually real. And it is so cool to see the evolution of a person, because you could feel it. Like if you're in touch, I feel the difference in your confidence.
Yeah.
And that is fucking amazing. Like I'm so proud of whatever journey you've done.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
What do you think has contributed most to that rise of knowing yourself and that confidence?
Community, like 100% community. Like being around people that carry themselves so confidently, it almost forces you to do the same thing. I had a lot more insecurities that I didn't really talk about, and like, for example, like having more of like an abundant mindset and less of a scarcity mindset. I wouldn't even swipe my card to like get into the train in New York City, which was like $2.75. I'm like, that's too expensive. I could walk there. And now seeing my friends like, and not that this is something that like people should go out and just like buy Air Force Ones or like Jordans, but seeing people like buy a $300 airplane ticket because like it's just money. I'll make it back. That would give me confidence of like, yeah, oh yeah, like whatever we're doing, I'm very confident that the money will come. I'll pay $300 to go to Austin. Like no, like why am I limiting myself? So those little lessons you just start picking up when you have like 5 to 10 like people that are trying to push towards the same thing, or similar thing, or just are just purpose driven. Yeah, it's just community changed everything for me, I think.
Talk to me about Austin.
Austin, that's where all of us want to be, man. I actually got a funny story about Austin because this is what I envision Austin being for our generation and for us specifically as artists and creators. So Paris in the 20s, where Fitzgerald and Picasso and all these artists were literally in this like kind of one block. And I'm like, that like I fantasize about that so much. And then like what I was obsessed with when I learned this in film school in the 1970s, like the Hollywood movie brats, Spielberg, Scorsese, they were all best friends, and they kind of all lived in a very like, they've all lived very close to each other or would fly to each other all the time. And like George Lucas would walk into Steven Spielberg's home and he's like, hey, I have this tape of like archival footage from World War II. I just kind of cut it together. I'm thinking about making this thing called Star Wars. What do you think? And they would sit down and they would fucking like analyze it. And Spielberg would give some advice on Star Wars and George Lucas would give some advice on Jaws. And it's fucking crazy because it's a small community. Everyone's kind of made it. And I'm like, we need a space like that. And for 2 years that I've been friends with the people in my community, we wanted to find that space, but we just never knew where. Is it going to be in Europe? Is it going to be in New York City? Is it going to be in LA? I don't know. And then I got flown out here for an event in Austin. And Van Neistat happened to be here at the same event. And I sat down with Van and asked him, like, were you nostalgic about your New York days? You know, having been a big fan of the Neistat brothers and knowing that they've kind of built a little community there. He's like, yes. You know why? He says, because all of us lived under one building. He says, it was me, the Safdie brothers. It was like me and Casey, the Safdie brothers who directed Uncut Gems. Greta Gerwig, Lady Bird, Ariel Schulman, all these people. We all lived under one building under this one landlord. Her name was Diane Finks. And we all called it the Diane Finks School of Art. And what I didn't realize until later on about him telling me this, like all of them have made it. Some of them Oscar winning, some of them world-class YouTubers. They were a part of this film movement called the Mumblecore. So like they're literally written into film textbook history now. And having spoken to this guy who's literally, he will be in film textbooks, you know, telling me that there was this community in the early 2000s called, and the movement was called Mumblecore. Like, I was like, damn, this is going to happen now with what we're trying to build. And coincidentally, we were in Austin, seeing the skyscrapers being built, seeing the quirkiness of Austin. I'm like, this is the perfect like developing city for artists to come in and feed off of each other and build this new movement, you know, and everything that we talked about in terms of like the democratization of storytelling, pushing art forward in that sense. And like, I think all of that can be here in the YouTube New Wave and Creator Camp. Why can't Austin be the headquarters for all of that stuff, you know?
Wow. So cool hearing you talk about it from a filmmaking perspective, because I've known, and obviously I'm deep in the podcasting world, and it's part of the reason why I'm here, because people like Rogan, Ferris, Chris Williamson, Lex, all coming to Austin. I talked to a friend recently who's a comedian, and he's like, dude, the comedy scene in Austin, insane. I have a bunch of friends who are writers, writing scene, insane. And now you're talking about the filmmaking scene in Austin being the place where it's going to happen is remarkable to me.
Yeah, it's exciting. The filmmaking and YouTube scene, like, Yeah. I hope that this is our version of the Paris in the 20s, or our version of like, Hollywood in the 70s.
It is for me as a podcaster, and it highlights something that Stephen Pressfield talks about all the time, which is put your ass where your heart wants to be.
Yeah.
And he means that from a micro sense of like, if you're a writer, put your ass in the chair, like actually write.
Mm-hmm.
But he also means that in the macro sense of, if you want to be a filmmaker, go to where the filmmakers are or where the creative people are.
Yeah.
If you want to be a writer, go to where the writers are. If you want to be a podcaster, go to et cetera, because it matters. The amount of random, quote unquote, random run-ins I've had over the past 2 months with other podcasters or other people who are creative or other people I want on the podcast, it has been insane for my own personal growth, for the podcast growth, and for life. And I'm just like, thank you, God, for putting me here in this place at this time.
Yeah, yeah. And it's kind of also like the proof of like the tech companies can't do everything. Like physical spaces are still like super, super important. And this is like, being here is like all a reminder of that,
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit more about this? Because there is such a push for technology to rule the world, and technology has been such a force for good for so much of life. But it's not a perfect replacement for everything.
I had this conversation like before, like, I'm trying to think of how to frame this. COVID was like proof that like technically you could live in your room for the rest of your life. Technically you can, you don't really have to leave your house, but why, for some reason, on Fridays after COVID restrictions were lifted, is everyone like out in New York City? Why I thought movie theaters were supposed to be dead by now. Why are they still thriving? Or like, why are people still going? And I feel like there's like another sense of like, what are like the 5 things that we need to sort of, is like shelter, food,
love. I'm just going.
No. Like, there was like I don't know. It's like the 5, whatever you need to survive. But like, what I'm realizing is like maybe tech companies had forgotten one thing, which is like community and yes, like love and all that stuff. Because tech companies had figured out everything else besides that.
Well, it's really hard to recreate love through technology.
Yeah,
a like button is not love.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bar.
Oh yeah.
No, but seriously, it's like you do feel love when, all right, Ryan likes my post on Twitter. Like, I feel something, but it's not, I don't feel the connection of you telling me like, yo, dude, like this podcast or this thing that you said in this podcast, that really impacted me.
Yeah.
It hits different.
Or like even like conversations like this hit different than probably over a Zoom call.
1000%.
Yeah.
Because we're here, we could feel each other's energy. I could feel your confidence. I could feel the way you're carrying yourself. There's so much more than what's going on with just the screen of your face and the top half of your face with a Zoom call.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's a remarkable thing. And I just want to push people to have more in-person conversations, more connections. And you, to me, represent that so strongly because of what you're building.
I appreciate that. Yeah. We're always talking about like NFTs and like almost like decent, like fucking, becoming more like separated with like the metaverse and everything. But I feel like there will be a whole industry resurgence of like physical spaces. I think it's going to be cool to like hang out with your friends in the mall again, like, I don't think that's something that young people do anymore, but like, I think, I don't know, but I think it's been cool to do that stuff again. It's going to be like, I don't know. I think that our generation, at least like there's so many conversations of building social spaces. I just had this conversation. I just remember I had this conversation with a friend yesterday about third spaces. Do you know about this?
My buddy Zach Pograb told me about them.
Third spaces. America is like not that good with third spaces, right? So basically, I'm trying to explain this because I just learned this yesterday. A third space is like something. It's like a communal space, and the barrier to entry shouldn't be high, super high, right? So like, let's just say in Paris it's like coffee shops or something like that. And in a coffee shop, you might run into your neighbor, and you didn't expect to run into your neighbor, but you ran into your neighbor, and you have a conversation, and you kind of not waste 2 hours, but you kind of spend 2 hours talking to your neighbor, and you didn't expect to have that connection, right? Or like, there's not a lot in America, but like bodegas, right, in New York City, where bodegas are cheap. Like, you only need to bring $2 to get something, but a couple of little kids might go and buy a chocolate bar and run into an older fellow in the community and maybe they run into each other a lot in the bodega, and they build a relationship from that space. And then this older individual from the community now becomes a mentor to these little kids. And what my friend was saying is like, there aren't a lot of third spaces in America, and the third spaces that are around are super expensive, right? WeWork, hella expensive. Even coffee shops like in LA and stuff like that, they're like $20 coffees. I'm exaggerating, but like, it's expensive. And also like, now everyone's working in coffee shops, so there isn't that sense of community. It's much more like pushing towards your own goals and stuff like that. But I think there will be like a resurgence, or someone in our generation is going to figure out how to create cheap third spaces for people to like congregate and like build relationships and stuff like that.
Well, just to be clear for people who have never heard of the term, the first space would be like your home, the second space would be work, and the third space is like something that's not either of those two that allows for a connection.
Right.
So you're so right. And in a sense, I feel like Creator Camp is a third space for a select group of people.
Yeah.
How do you then make that into something that anyone could go to?
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly genuine. Like, that's the goal, is to like eventually like build a campus
So cool.
that like anyone can come to. And the thing with Creator Camp is like, it's free. It besides your ticket to go to the event, you don't pay for anything else, and we intend to keep it that way, for forever, right? And like, how can we do that at a mass scale? I don't know. How can we do that in America in a mass scale? I'm not sure. Like, but I do have the confidence that we'll figure it out, or someone in our, that's the manifestation shit. Like, I'm just gonna say it. Someone's gonna figure it out in our generation.
Well, I want to ask, because I'm so excited to attend Creator Camp.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions based on.
For sure.
It's like, one, how do I create the best experience for myself and for other people at Creator Camp?
Oh man, that's a good question. This is probably the best way to describe it, and this might get you a better feel of what Creator Camp is. But like, don't like snub the startups, and don't fanboy the big timers, right? Make everything feel like a handwritten note. And then the other thing is no handshakes, only hugs. Only hugs. And like, I think that's a good thing, like encapsulation of what camp is. We bring creators that have 10 million subscribers and creators that have 1,000 subscribers, or just want to create but haven't even started yet, but we know have an amazing potential. And making sure that everyone feels like they're valued and they're super important. Not just chasing the big timers. And just, yeah, that's the best way to approach it. And it's one of those things where you just gotta see it, which is like such a terrible way of describing it. But
well, it's also in its second iteration, or third if you count the Montana trip.
yeah,
So it's like, it's new, and it's an idea in your head that has kind of come to life in some sense, but it hasn't manifested itself fully.
right.
And that's exciting.
I don't know. Also, like,
I love those 3 rules though, or those 3
yeah.
suggestions.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is, like, I don't know where all this stuff is headed. It's just like, you're all figuring it out along with us. You guys are all figuring it out along with us. So, that's the other thing is like what I'm realizing as like one of the co-founders is like I can't hold the weight of the whole community, and I shouldn't hold the weight of the whole community, you know. But yeah, just going in with love, going in.
I think that's beautiful. And then my second question around this was, let's say somebody's listening to this and they want to bring together people in their own lives to create better experiences. What recommendations do you have for them to create a community or a dinner or a space for other people to thrive?
The way that we explained it was like, and maybe this doesn't answer the question for like, I don't know, like school teachers or whatever, but like if you are openly putting good out into the world, you just have to trust that the good is also going to come back to you.
Givers get more.
Yeah. And that maybe that's not a solid piece of advice of like, you should cold email 5 people a day and figure that out, which also might be a thing that you would want to do, right? You just DM people that really inspire you. But on a more, I guess, like abstract level, or like a more like a more abstract level, if you're putting out good in the world, if you're moving forward with purpose, it's going to come back to you 100%. And also you're going to become more of a sniper of like who is your type of person and who isn't, and you know who to pursue now, so that would be my advice, is just to keep putting out good in the world, and don't be afraid to, again, like create fearlessly, just keep putting stuff out, whatever that is,
What is a sniper?
This is from Tyler, the Creator. He was like, as you continue to grow into yourself, as you continue to dress the way that you like to dress, decorate your room that you like to decorate it in, and taking on the jobs that you like to take on and stuff like that, you understand where you belong. Or like, again, that might be harmful as well, because like then you might be boxing yourself in. But for me so far, it's been very helpful in understanding like where I kind of belong, what I should be doing, like how far I should be pushing myself, like or like me working with like Coca-Cola makes less sense than me working with Polaroid types thing,
Figuring out who you are.
Yeah.
Becoming a sniper is really about understanding yourself.
Yeah.
And then figuring out where
exactly
you're going to put your pieces on the board from understanding yourself. Love it. Well, Ryan, this has been a tremendous amount of fun. I'm super grateful for it.
Thank you, man.
I like to end these podcasts with challenges for people.
Let's do it.
A challenge points to the place you believe everything we've spoken about, people should take some action and do something with the next step of their day. Does a challenge come to mind from everything we've spoken about, or something we haven't?
If you're a creator or whatever it is that you're doing, and if you have something passionate to say, and if that thing you think is not going to get enough views, or you should do it. Like, and purposely, I wouldn't say sabotage, but purposely create something that wouldn't get enough views, or you wouldn't like. Yeah, I don't know if I'm making any sense there.
So I wanna.
You can articulate.
I want to articulate that. Like, actually put yourself out there in a way that might actually not get the most views,
or would scare you,
or what, because if you've never recorded a video of yourself and you're like, no one's gonna like this, no one cares about what I have to say, and then you do it, you'll realize that there's no actually anything to fear there.
For sure. Yeah.
Ryan, this has been a tremendous amount of fun. I'm really grateful for you. Where can we send people to connect with you further?
Ryan NG Films on YouTube.
Is it pronounced Ing?
It's pronounced Ing. Yeah.
Ing.
That's great. Thank you for
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, that's so many people butcher that.
So that's linked below. Really big fan of your channel and everything you're creating.
Appreciate you.
And you are putting love and care and kindness and work, like actual work. You see the work that you put in very subtly. Like, you're putting all that into the world without explicitly saying that. And because of that, I'm so grateful for you joining me here.
I appreciate you, man.
This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
First of many.